loss, the emotional loss. And let's just talk about the adults in the room that want to interrupt people speaking if you represent a teacher's position. Is that what we teach our children in schools now? It's not what I teach my children. Our children deserve a board that listens. Parents deserve a voice. Whether you agree with what I'd stand for or not, I stand for people having a voice. I stand for people having respect for people having a voice and not being rude when they're trying to speak. Because as people, we deserve respect. Whether you're a parent, a student, a staff member, like Miss Honey, a support staff, listen to us. Because we are watching. Parents are watching. And just because my opinion differs from yours does not make mine less valuable. And it doesn't make the parent sitting next to you have a less important opinion. It was the lack of voice that parents and students have had during all of this that made me want to run for school board. I am a candidate in District 4. I represent a group of parents who honestly have been afraid to say anything. Guess what? We're not afraid anymore. There are students getting told that after spring break, when they don't wear a mask, that they won't get help from teachers because they aren't wearing masks. I will speak to y'all individually on that matter.
Thank you. James Claxton. Okay. Nicole Bynum. Dave Rosenberg. Councilmember Dave Rosenberg.
Good evening. It's
Good evening.
great to see y'all. Thank you for doing what you do. And I know that y'all do it out of passion, but $300 effing every 2 weeks isn't enough.
Change that, Councilman. You need to change it.
Got it. Got you. So I want to talk about a school, but I really just don't even know what I want to say. There are a lot of you on the board and in the audience that I fought alongside on educational matters, and there are people that I've battled against on them, including on the board, but I've never doubted that if a child reached out in need, that every single one of you would be there, or if that a teacher was truly hurting, that every one of you would. I never doubted that every single one of you would be there to reach out. But there's a large number of teachers who are hurting right now. They're scared for their physical safety at this particular school. There's a feeling that they're not being heard and that nobody cares, that the district doesn't care. And I can't tell them that they're wrong, because whether that's the reality or not, that's the perception, because they're not being given the opportunity to speak in a way where they are safe. They're being told that the only way that they can express concern about really serious things, including a really serious assault that happened last week, is to file a formal complaint or to send a text message that identifies them, or even an email from their personal email, which will identify them. And they're afraid of doing that for their jobs. When you have a vindictive principal and a district that doesn't appear to care, to be responsive, then of course they don't want to do that. These folks need to be given the opportunity to speak in a safe and anonymous way about things that are going on, because there are people that are hurting in the schools. They shouldn't be reaching out to me. I love public schools. I love my kids' school. I love the concept of public education, the promise of public education. But I'm not the guy that they should feel like they have to reach out to, because they don't trust the district to do anything to help them. So email you separately just some of the things that have been going on. It's been shared with people in the central office. Some of these really serious incidents and really just heart-wrenching quotes from parents and teachers about incidents that they've observed and the situations that they're going under. But I just ask y'all to please step up and help over there and not turn a blind eye anymore. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you, Councilman Rosenberg. Laura Dietrich. Caroline Hips. Anthony Shelton.
My name is Anthony Shelton. I'm the father of a visually impaired kindergartner in District 3. Last month, I appeared here to ask why my questions about mask policies that were affecting my daughter had not been answered. Finally, that evening, I began to receive responses about my concerns. The responses were far from what I had expected, though. Initially, I was told I had missed emails from the board, which is strange because I do know how to check my email. Then I was asked if my daughter had an IEP, a completely irrelevant question based on our situation. Then the school principal was copied on the email. Again, he knew everything about our situation but was powerless. That's the reason I addressed you guys in the first place. In the days following, what I did was dare to email and ask the board simple questions about how decisions were being made, so then my wife and I could make medical decisions for our daughter. During that exchange, I was told I was dishonest, unkind, and I was disrespectful by a board member. On all of these messages, most of the board were copied, as well as Dr. Battle. Nobody said anything, as if to condone that's an appropriate way to speak to a parent. Then imagine my surprise when 2 weeks ago, my situation was brought up again. And we were blamed publicly for not following through on a mask accommodation form. So you're checking up on us now and publicly discussing medical decisions about my family without our consent is okay? It is not. You crossed the line. Just like you crossed the line using profanity in the last meeting, thank you for your apology. It's noted and accepted. When you crossed the line while calling parents, the same parents were behaving in a racist manner, and then you issued veiled threats against these parents at the conclusion of the meeting, all while lecturing us on the decorum, right? Okay, so I'm done, finished addressing the board. Parents and staff, listen to me. I need to talk to you. Quit worrying about what your friends think about you and start worrying about what your kids think about you. Our children have sacrificed enough while the rest of our community has moved on. You are allowed to question those who make decisions. Parents, you are allowed to be an active participant in your child's education and their health care without fear of intimidation. And most importantly, I hope everybody was paying attention to the student representatives. I heard a lot of fear and guilt for potentially bringing home an illness to family members if masks were taken away. That is a huge problem. If we are removing mask requirements, we need to be having conversations now with students about why it's safe. I'm only hearing that from Ms. Bush. It seems all the other board members enjoy grandstanding about how masks keep us safe, then vote right down the line to remove the masks.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Sarah Seigan.
Thank you, Davey.
I just got here, 10 seconds. I was at home repairing a broken washing machine. There's a broken washing machine on my staircase while I'm listening to this board meeting, and I left it there, and I came right here to address very calculated. You knew that those of us who've been advocating for mask optional were not here. You could view it. So you brought it up. Well, so I got in my car and I drove here. And this is what I'd like to say. If we're watching the data, we could have taken masks off in November when cases were 36. We could have taken masks off, or that was October. November, it was about the same. But at that point, there was the county building mandate that we were hiding behind. Then it was the court case that we were hiding behind. And the goalposts have continued to move. And I will tell you this. Anxiety is a symptom of uncertainty. So when we tell our kids, you're going mask optional, and they know they have that choice, and they know that nationwide it's been heralded as a valuable option because one-way masking, which hasn't really been discussed, with high-quality masks is a safe way to protect those who are medically vulnerable and for those who just don't feel okay yet, and that's fine. That's fine. So one-way masking is optional, or is part of the mask optional move, and now we're saying, oh, but maybe. And so that anxiety is still there because it's all very, very uncertain. And when you want to talk about safety, I'd like to just bring up when my tipping point was when there was a credible threat, seemingly credible threat at Overton High School, student safety, students going into the cafeteria, people there with weapons, ready to figure out what was going on. And I have a 9th grader. And the 9th graders are feeling very nervous because they've never been in this situation before. There might be a school shooter. People are passing notes around on their phones. And somebody said a comment about how it was really hard to tell what the other students' intentions were because everybody was wearing a mask. And that was the day I said the gloves come off. You want to talk about student safety? I want my kid to be able to see a supportive face in school if he thinks there's a credible shooter. So that was my breaking point. I didn't practice what I was going to say here tonight because I had things I needed to tend to. Every other time I've tried to come up very measured and very unemotional because I know that that is the language of the intellectuals. But tonight I feel very emotional. I'm glad that masks are coming off on the 21st, and I'd just like to say that for those who are wanting to run against any of our incumbents other than Fran Bush, there's a group of passionate, intelligent parents keeping track of the data for 2 years. They'll be happy to help you get elected.
Thank you. Abe Kelleher. Maybe Abby Kelleher.
My name is Abby Kelleher. I have 3 children in 3 different metro schools. I had a speech planned, but I'm going to pivot. The decision you guys made about masks last week was the right one, and I appreciate y'all for doing that. You're never going to make everybody happy. One-way masking is a possibility. Our own FDA says that there are key differences between masks. There are face coverings meant to provide filtration, surgical masks meant to provide a fluid barrier, and lastly, respirators, which are meant to provide respiratory protection for the wearer. That's the KN95. The decision you made to make masks optional and to provide those to those that are unsecure about it was the right decision. Stick with it. And to Ms. Bush's point, I just pulled this up on my phone. I'm reading from y'all's website. I just listened to these I have a son in Avid. I didn't even come here thinking about that. We have these I just heard an hour of great things about education with things we can do for our children. The mission of MNPS, I'm reading it right here, to deliver a great public education to every student every day. Go back to the mission. The media, the public, you guys, the 10 of y'all sitting here, or however many there are, refocus on your mission. It's to educate. Don't worry about what everybody's saying. Focus on education. Listen to your folks that were up here talking about Avid and all the other things that we have the ability to do. You made the right decision last week or 2 weeks ago. Let's stick with it, please. Thank you for your time, and I really do appreciate your volunteer work. I've been on a board like this myself, so I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelleher. Katie McDaniel. Christopher Sutherland. Eve Tanner. Morgan Phillips. James Franklin Spencer. Sorry, go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Honey kind of capitalized on everything that I wanted to speak about in support for SEIU. I'm glad you guys are listening. I'm glad you heard our voices. I'm glad you guys are actively acting on it. I appreciate that. So I'm going to speak on another part, the security department. The security department is in dire need of help. The security department is short. We can hardly respond to things that go on in the district. Talking hour, 2 hours response time. Doesn't need to happen. Everybody's on behavior, help. We can't get there fast enough because we're short-staffed. Because nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to work under the current executive administration. Okay? Today was kind of a wake-up call for me because I had a situation with my son, and I come back to work and find out that people are talking about that situation. This is one place that I should be safe and be left alone about personal issues, okay? I think I've said it before. I don't play about my peace. I don't play about my money, and I don't play about my kids. After today, I'm gonna step back and watch what happens. Because right now, I'm shot, y'all. I'm shot. I'm Ricky. I'm turning, walking down, Boys in the Hood. I'm shot. I'm shot. I thought it couldn't happen, but I'm shot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Hattie Bryant. Patrick Norris. Sarah Shelton. Maria Antonio. Andy Rowley. Malachi Dobbins. Elizabeth Self. Judah Seigan. Bernadette Minyard. Heather Andrews. Donna Clay. Jesse Seigan. James Brown.
Bingo.
I do appreciate y'all getting all them people out of my way. When I come here tonight, I got to looking around the room and thinking 12 years ago, I was standing in this very spot talking to Jesse Register about the budget. And I remember very clearly that the man didn't even look at me. I like you a lot better, Dr. Battle. At least you got the gumption to look at me. And I remember telling the man that he'd be gone before too much longer. And that years later, I'd still be here dealing with the damage he did. And here I am. A decade later, and we're still hurting. A third of my fellow union members make less than $30K a year. Living in a city where rents are going up for even a modest apartment by hundreds of dollars a month. Where food is getting more expensive. Gasoline, Lord knows everybody's complaining about gasoline. And support employees are having to deal with that. Now, last year, teachers got a much-deserved $6,900 a year raise on average. And I'm going to do the same thing Honey did. I think we deserve exactly the same. And I'm also going to tell you something I've also been preaching for 10 years. You want to apply the money in the right way, make it a flat raise. Percentage raises just open up the income gap and make the people at the bottom hurt more. Apply the money as a flat raise, give the same amount of money, give $6,900 to the grade 1 employees, give it to the grade 16 employees. And it'll do a lot more good than if you just apply it as a percentage. And I tell you, I'm closer to grade 16 than I am to grade 1. So I ain't doing myself no favors by asking for this. And that's all I really got to say. Thank you for your time. Things are looking up. I'll say that. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you. Bethany Riddle Johnson.
Good evening, Board. My name is Bethany Riddle Johnson, and I am an MNPS parent, and I am also a leader in the NOAA Education Task Force, and I live on Lone Oak Road in Ginny Poo Poo Walker's district. Oops, sorry. I'm here tonight to thank you for all of the great things and leadership that the Board is doing and that Dr. Battle and her team are doing. You've committed to valuing all students' identities. That includes welcoming lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and queer students in our schools, that students of all races, ethnicities, countries of origin are welcomed and valued, that medically vulnerable students are valued and deserve protection. I'm grateful that you're supporting our teachers to continue to teach the truth about our country's history. It's so critical that my children and all of our children learning about the contributions of all of the people of our country, including the many contributions of women, of Native Americans, Black Americans, Mexican Americans, and many other Americans. It's critical that they learn and discuss both the good and the bad, the harmful, the uplifting, all the things that make our country what it is today, and you are giving and supporting our teachers in doing that. My daughter's U.S. history teacher is fabulous, and we need to support our teachers, not make them fearful and devalued, and I appreciate that you're standing up for that. I applaud your expansion of restorative practice assistance to all middle and high schools. I experienced firsthand the benefits of restorative practice assistant in my daughter's high school, who stepped in and provided some really needed support to my daughter and led a restorative circle that was critical to resolving a situation, allowing my daughter to return to focus on learning. And so I think it's a great resource for all students in the building. Finally, I found what Dr. Battle presented about TISA funding alarming, and myself and others at NOAA are committed to advocating for a revised state funding formula to support MNPS students and all the great work that's happening. So in closing, I applaud that you push to don't hate and instead educate in MNPS schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn Hoyt.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lynn Hoyt. Thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm an MNPS parent. I live in Ms. Tyler's district, and I'm a NOAA member. I'm here to thank you for standing strong against a national movement that is divisive and disruptive. I'm here to stand with you to demand censorship stop. I'm here to advocate for local control. I support your governance process to determine our unique needs for Nashville, a process our state has no business taking over. I'm here to speak out against the attacks on educators and librarians and library collections. The chilling effect of teachers afraid to teach means state legislation could make kids afraid to learn. Fear has no place in our classroom. There are policies in place if you don't want your kids reading books you don't approve of. You don't have to create fear in a boardroom. The practice of critical thinking makes space for differences. Not teaching the truth about sex or the Holocaust, slavery, Jim Crow, racism, bigotry, or even climate change really means we're being in denial of sin. Worse, described in the Bible, has been banned historically. You can't improve, do better, be more without recognizing mistakes. and sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. Learning the strength it takes from people groups still systemically victimized to overcome historic oppression is also a powerful lesson. Truth is in power. It can reconcile and build the common good, solutions to move us to a more perfect union. And I agree, ground in the mission, stay the course. Now, about funding. Our state is in denial. They don't believe that our schools have enough money to deliver on the promise of a great education for every child. Parents need to wake up to the fleecing of Nashville that is our governor's new funding formula. If the governor gets his way, he is the reason your taxes will increase. We generate billions in Nashville that bankroll the state, not our city. That money should come back to Nashville, and the cost of living and fair poverty calculations should also factor into the state's fair share. I'm, however, not in denial that our teachers are suffering and working conditions are not sustainable. We need to demand smaller class sizes, added support staff, and pay them. Kids behind can be helped while supporting kids ready to move ahead. I like the MNEA idea to create a stakeholder committee made up of educators, parents, and district leaders. For parents in the PAC, I take it a step further. Ask to see your school level budget. See how principals allocate funds. Where's that money spent? Maybe we need a state and MPS dashboard for each school or parents so they can quickly understand what student-based budgeting really looks like at the school level and the student level. I think it will actually help people appreciate what is done and how it gets done and how much money it takes. It also takes strong leadership. I appreciate yours for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hood. Cassie Norton.
Hello, my name is Cassie. I live and teach in 37214. I'm here because we are reaching a staffing crisis, and I'm asking you to take action to address it. I heard some of that in the budget meeting before the meeting tonight, and I hope you consider to keep having that conversation moving forward. Right now, our students are getting to school late on crowded buses because we don't have enough bus drivers. They're being shuffled from room to room without teachers. Some of their classes have gone months without a teacher. There are no subs, so they spend their day in the gym or in overcrowded classes, or with teachers who are giving up crucial planning time to cover classes. Their teachers are burned out. We're exhausted from being overworked, having giant classes, addressing student emotional, academic, and behavior needs with very little support. Then students do ask for help with their emotional needs. Many of them are struggling with their mental health and with all of the individual and societal traumas that we've been going through for 2 years. But there aren't enough counselors, therapists, or social workers to help them. And at the end of the day, they wait an hour for their bus driver to finally come back from driving an extra route and take them home on a crowded bus. This is the situation in our schools. And if you do not make fully staffing our district a budget priority, things are going to be worse next year. We need raises for all of our staff, especially support staff, subs, and bus drivers. Otherwise, we can't keep expecting people to step forward and do these important jobs when they can't expect to be able to live in Nashville on their wages. We need retention bonuses for teachers. The staffing crisis has meant our workers are doing the jobs of 2 and sometimes 3 people. We've been sacrificing time, resources, and our own mental health to ensure that students' learning doesn't suffer. We need to invest time and resources for social emotional support for students and teachers. We need to stop wasting time on apps and self-care webinars and email blasts and invest in counselors and psychologists. Good teachers have already left this year. More have said that they're not coming back next year. What are you going to do to show teachers that you care about us enough to make sure that we stay? Thank you.
Thank you. Diana Flegel.
Hello, I'm Diana Flegel. I am an MNPS alum, and also I work as a blended pre-K teacher at Fall Hamilton. I would like to express my concerns about staffing and budgets. My school is currently not fully staffed. We are down some paraprofessionals and our speech therapist. Since we are missing out on these roles, children with IEPs who need extra support for speech language or support in the regular ed classroom are not receiving it. This is a legal violation of their IEPs. We just hired a new teacher last month for a position that has been open since the beginning of the school year. It took us almost the whole year to find someone to fill this position. I believe part of this is because we are not paying enough for our non-certified positions. We need to increase pay for both certified and non-certified staff if we hope to fully staff MNPS. I know teachers of who will not be returning next year. This too is a staffing issue. When I spoke to my colleagues to find out why, they mentioned that they weren't getting a lunch break or planning because we don't have enough staff. This has led them to feel overworked, completely burnt out, and they see no other solution but to retire early or quit. This again is a staffing and budget issue. We need to increase pay for all MNPS employees. Otherwise, our schools will continue to be understaffed and our students will not get the education that they legally deserve. We are also unable to find subs to come into work. So when I need to take a day off because I am unwell, my paraprofessional is stepping up and teaching in that position for me and not getting paid for it. We need to increase sub pay, and we need to allow our other employees in the building who are covering for subs to receive some of that sub pay money that we have. Staff has worked so hard during these difficult times. Please pay us a bonus and to recognize our hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Graham Spencer.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board, Dr. Battle. My name is Graham Spencer, and I'm so lucky to teach 6th grade at middle school. Not our elementary school or middle school. Elementary school is great too, but I'm all middle. I love getting to teach the students of Madison, Rivergate, and Goodlettsville. Like most of my colleagues across MNPS, the reason I teach is for our kids. If it wasn't for our kids, I wouldn't be here. My students are smart, creative, and passionate about so many things, and I love what I get to do. I met most of my students last year, one of the strangest years ever, in 5th grade. I knew that to survive this super funky year, we were going to have to pull out all the stops. From home technology help to delivering prizes to evening small groups to attending soccer games, I did everything I could, and my team did everything we could to support our students. Looping up into 6th grade with them this year, I've gotten to see my students emerge from the confines of virtual learning. It's been really funky as we work to adjust back to traditional school and what that means. I realized yesterday with my kids, this is the longest school year as of today they've had in 3 years. But I continue to support my students, teaching and reteaching prior year standards, teaching my full team when my other 2 teachers were out with COVID, restocking and cleaning the bathrooms when we didn't have full-time custodians for months, making visits to a bus stop when there was sketchy activity from a community member, and as of 3 weeks ago, also coaching boys track. But I cannot fully support my students alone. Education is a team sport. Beyond my phenomenal school team, we must work as a district and a community to ensure that we are doing right by our students. We must ensure that all of our students have equitable access to a great education. My students are in class sizes that are far too big because teachers have continued to leave at unprecedented rates. Then when a teacher is out, my students end up being split into those already larger classes because we do not value our substitutes adequately. Finally, when our students leave for the day, they're crammed onto overfilled buses because we have multiple routes without drivers. Some of the buses are so crowded that I can't even fit on them. Thankfully, these issues do not have to compound any further. Thankfully, there are steps that we can take to improve our students' educational experiences. We must ensure longevity pay and cost of living adjustments for all of our employees. Our team loves our students, but everyone must be compensated fairly and appropriately for their investment. The cost of living has increased drastically in the district, so employee compensation must keep pace. We must increase bus driver and support staff pay. All of our MNPS team works hard, but our bus drivers and support staff are some of the hardest working among us. From picking up double or triple routes to covering for teachers who don't have subs, these 2 groups regularly go above and beyond their job descriptions. Together, we can do right for our students. Together, we can propel MNPS to unprecedented growth, and together, we can be the premier large school district in the entire Southeast. Looping back to what we said before. Thank y'all so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too. Julie Trudell. All right. Beverly Whalen Schmeller.
Greetings. I live in Ms. Bugg's district. I'm here to talk about teacher burnout and what we can do about it. The research identifies 2 factors that can protect individuals against burnout: an internal locus of control and self-efficacy. Both factors help us to fight burnout. It reminds me of an Alice Walker quote: "The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any." Well, we have power at the individual level and can harness it by using these 2 factors, and you have power as a board as well. Right now, we need this power to combat a sense of helplessness. The pandemic is an invisible, deadly force that has disrupted our lives and killed more than 900,000 Americans. There are also political forces at work trying to kill the democratizing force of public education by stealing funding and scapegoating teachers. Individually, I refuse to give up my power. I harness it by listing what I can control. I can breathe deeply, get rest, help my colleagues, and ask for their help. We can unplug and spend time in nature. Cataloging our previous accomplishments will help us achieve new goals when we are stuck. This is where our individual self-efficacy kicks in. What has worked for me in the past? Where are my students' successes? In difficult times, no success is too small to honor. I will thank you, the board, for your service. I will help my colleagues. That's what we as educators can do individually. But what can Dr. Battle and the board do at a macro level? The research also indicates that school climate can foster resilience and help retain teachers. Encourage your principals to honor the MOU and get those FACs up and running. Help educators afford to live here by funding longevity pay and a cost of living adjustment. Gas, rent, food. Teachers are more likely to stick around if they can afford these. Pay the substitutes better so that teachers can get their planning time back. Invest in more counselors, social workers, and school psychologists so that we can help our students use their self-efficacy and locus of control. While we are using our individual power, please use your power of the purse. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Rebecca Soto. Susan Norwood.
Susan had to leave because public comment didn't start till 7 p.m., 13 hours after she gets to school every day. So I'll be reading her statement. My name is Susan Norwood. I am an English teacher at McGavick High School, where I've taught for the past 10 years. This is my 15th year as a teacher in MNPS. How is Nashville going to fund public education this budget season? And how will we spend our COVID emergency funds known as ESSER funds? Teachers should have a say, so here's my say. First of all, teachers and other educators who work directly with students need to be adequately compensated for the important and difficult job we do in educating our city's children. Teacher pay was adjusted, no, not raised, but adjusted last year to compensate for all of the previous years our pay had been frozen. My pay had been stagnant for the majority of my career. During this time, I got more experience and became a better teacher, but my pay didn't go up in any meaningful way during all that time. So my pay was adjusted last year, but I, like other teachers, still struggle to live in Nashville. My pay increased, that is true, but the increase was still less than the increase in the cost of living that occurred at the same time. You ask why you can't recruit and retain teachers? It's pretty obvious. We can't afford to live here independently, despite being college-educated professionals. Those of us who work directly with students, including bus drivers, subs, parapros, secretaries, campus support, etc., need more pay, and we need it now. There is no affordable housing for us. Rent has gone up, food has gone up, gas is going up. We need a cost of living adjustment and COVID hazard pay. Let's look at housing. The asking price for a 1,300 square foot home in Woodbine is about $500,000. Of course, if you actually want to buy that house, you have to offer at least $25,000 over asking price in order to compete with all those California buyers. So if you're a single teacher, you can forget about buying a house ever. And if you have to rent for your entire career, you never really get ahead. You never get the financial security that having equity in a house provides. A cost of living adjustment is a modest ask for an increase in pay for 1 year only. It is to help us get through these increased expenses and still be able to afford to teach. It is a Band-Aid, but better a Band-Aid than nothing at all. We are also asking for COVID hazard pay. Most of us educators have to work second jobs, and most every teacher I know has gotten sick from COVID at least once and couldn't go to their second job. please increase compensation to ensure sufficient adult staff to safely educate our children.
Thank you. Sarah Morrison.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Morrison, and I'm a third grade teacher at Schwab Elementary and a member of MNEA. I'd like to share with you all a message that I got on social media this past Saturday, March 5th. It came from a mentor teacher I worked with at the start of my teaching career 9 years ago. It started, "Hi Sarah, when talking to a friend today, your name came up. She's an ex-Dodia teacher and a former college professor. She now works for the curriculum company blank. She does remote work and it is all online. I told her about you. She works with the science curriculum. She said if you're ever interested in employment to contact her. She would be happy to speak with you." The person who sent me the message goes on to share the other person's contact information and ends with, "I know you are a great teacher and I thought it might help you. I'm here to ask all of you to give me and many of the rest of us a reason to stay in your classrooms. I need a reason to not go work for a curriculum company. We need longevity pay, a cost of living adjustment, and compensation for the crisis work that we've been doing for the last 2 years. We need you to invest in the backbones of our schools and get us more support staff, bus drivers, and substitutes. These roles I don't fill, but I could not do my job without, and some days I'm having to miraculously find ways to do so. And maybe even some that don't speak only English, as that has even become a hurdle to some of my most vulnerable students this week who needed SEL support and couldn't access it because of the language barrier. If the goal is to drive out highly qualified and caring teachers out of the classroom, the trajectory that we're currently on is working well. There's no secret stash of us waiting in the wings to fill these positions. We don't want you to spend this ESSER money on another program. We don't need another new curriculum. We don't need more walkthroughs, feedback forms, peer reviews, protocols, or initiatives. We need help, support, dignity, and respect. Dr. Battle, you spoke back in December during the MNEA Town Hall about identifying and eliminating inequities within MNPS as a core tenet in the district. So I'd like to leave you all with a quote from researcher, educator, and speaker Dina Simmons that says, "No one really learns well when teachers are stressed and burnout, which is why I say that a stressed and burnout teaching force is an equity issue. If we believe in equity and we want our students to do well, we have to ensure our educators are doing well too." Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Scherer.
Greetings, Chair, members of the board, including our student members. You are very appreciated. Thank you for volunteering your time. And Dr. Battle. My name is Michelle Sheriff, President of MNEA. MNEA is proud to have partnered with MNPS to secure the $50 million from the Mayor and City Council to correct the certificated salary schedule. We celebrate with you and the City of Nashville for having the highest paid teachers in the state. We're also glad that our Joint Compensation Committee recommended including step increases in the continuity of effort budget, and we thank you and appreciate that the district is following that recommendation. MNEA urges the district to build a budget prioritizing student-facing positions. We know the most important thing for student learning is to have a certificated teacher in every classroom. The reality is this year we have been far from that. Teachers and support staff have had to sacrifice their time and exhaust themselves to cover unfilled vacancies and particularly unfilled sub-jobs. What our students need is stability. To achieve this, MNEA asked the district to be forward-thinking and prioritize the student-facing educator and staff retention. Dr. Battle stated educators need to feel appreciated at every stage of their career, and we agree. The following are priorities identified by educators and staff as the most important to help them feel valued. Implement a longevity pay plan for certificated staff similar to the longevity pay for principals, assistant principals, executive directors, and others on the administrative pay plan. Budget for a minimum of 3% cost of living adjustment for all staff to offset the skyrocketing cost of living in Nashville. Increase substitute pay to be competitive with the Nashville job market. Utilize ESSER funds to offer COVID bonus for educators and staff. Unfortunately, we continue at MNEA to have teachers reach out to us every week seeking guidance about how to resign and not have an action against their licensure at the state. And many who are leaving plan to leave the education profession or the classroom, such as what Sarah just explained. Another priority is having school-based stakeholder committees to give input on annual budgeting and allocation of ESSER funds. Dr. Battles also stated that the process should be transparent and include stakeholder input and feedback. And again, we agree on asking for that process to be consistent and equitable for educators, students, and families and other stakeholders across the district. MNEA appreciates your effort. We know you don't have an easy job, and we appreciate all you do to support educators, and we stand ready to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Kellyanne Graff.
Hello, it is so nice to speak to you today. I'm Kellyanne Graff. I teach at Thurgood Marshall Middle in Fran Bush's district, and I live in Player Peters district. And I absolutely love working at Marshall. I love the community I have. I have taught the students of janitors, support staff, nutrition workers, other teachers, and front secretarial workers, and I'm a second-year teacher. So we are really deeply embedded within our community. But I want us to take a step back and think about what our budget as a school is doing for our students. We know that poverty undermines education. It sets students up for failure in the classroom. It creates hurdles they have to overcome. We are creating the conditions of poverty in our own classrooms by failing to pay our support staff a living wage. We are making it harder for teachers, for students to get through the day because of this wealth disparity. We need so much more staff to make these schools happen. Today, when my counselor was out at Cane Ridge helping kids take classes, my dean of students was in a meeting. My social worker was in a meeting. My front office worker took a student who, using restorative practices, I prevented from getting into a fight and needed a safe space for her to go. And all of our SEL workers were occupied because their caseload is too high. We need easily twice as many SEL workers and support staff at our schools to make them run smoothly. In the past week, I've intercepted fights. I've been a first responder to a car accident. I'm directing traffic. I'm building relationships with parents through these interactions. But I lost my planning to go respond to a car accident. Today I lost my planning to have a talk with a data coach about how to implement a new data strategy. I need that time to plan. I need that time to grade and create feedback, meaningful feedback for my students. I spend my lunch talking with students about war and Iraq and how their families have been impacted by war throughout history, because they don't have time in class to talk about these things. Last week, I subbed every single day for at least 2 classes. And I don't know when or if I'm going to see subpay for that. We need a clear and transparent way to see subpay, because teachers are owed thousands of dollars because we have been subbing every single day. And we don't know if we're gonna get the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Berthina Naba-McKinney.
Ooh, it's been a long day. Good evening, Dr. Battle, Chair Buggs, school board members, students, teachers, staff, and families in the audience. My name is Dr. Berthina Naba-McKinney. I have 5 children who have graduated from Metro schools and still have a son in 3rd grade in a District 4 elementary school. I'm a candidate for school board in District 4, but today I'm representing the Parent Advisory Council for the McGavitt Cluster as their coordinator. Before I begin, I would like to personally congratulate our McGavitt High School students on their leadership and the opportunities Metro Schools has afforded them in their classes and the skills they have learned from the AVID program. Those 3 students, Kendall Derricks, Luisa Argueta, and Lorena Shaw, not only have shown leadership to represent McGavick, but they were also selected to participate and just graduated from the Elevate, which is formerly Leadership Donaldson Hermitage Youth Leadership Program, of which I'm the coordinator for that as well. And so the Yale program brings together a cohort of high school juniors from McGavick High School, Donaldson Christian Academy, Tennessee School for the Blind, and a homeschool student. And so it brings those students together to share and learn with one another, as well as hone in on their leadership skills that will prepare them for college, career, and life. And so I want to give a round of applause not only to Principal Angela Bailey, but also their teacher mentor, Zachary Hicks, for a job well done in supporting this leadership program and giving them the space to participate. And a round of applause for the students. Our students are brilliant, y'all, and we need to show up and tell them that. You guys are brilliant, and I've appreciated your voice on our school board. From the parent side, we are concerned about the public discourse around education. Recently, my son came home and asked why people don't like our teachers. I really like my teacher. She's really nice. I just don't understand why people just don't like teachers right now. The public comments, the public attacks and the disparaging comments and disinformation is really heart-wrenching. I don't know how many times I've heard that this is the nature of the beast and shouldn't take it personal, but my response is, how can we not take it personal? My children's life and the lives of all of our children across this district are worth us taking this serious. This discord has not helped our district, not helped our staff, and especially our students. We appreciate, Dr. Battle, your attention to prioritize the health and safety of our students and our staff. We hope we can focus on more critical issues, though, happening in education. Currently, we are faced at the Tennessee legislatures with making and voting on policies that will affect us, and we need to really hone in on those policies.
Thank you, Dr. Nabama-Kinney.
So that we have, so that we are working together to make the impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nabama-Kinney. Sarah Pascal.
Thank you so much. You're actually probably the first one today of all the judges I've talked to at work that have actually pronounced my last name correctly, so thank you. My name is Sarah Pascal. I am a mother of 3 children. 2 of them are here in Davidson County. 1 was in Davidson County, but I did have to pull her from the district. The mask mandates, I know that's a big subject and everything. I sat down and I asked my first and fourth grader what they felt about the masks. They said they were hot, they're sweaty, they can't breathe, they can't talk. You know, it's a hard time talking. They have a hard time hearing their teachers talk. All day long, it's pull your masks up, and it gets very irritating to the children because it's taking time away from their learning. With my oldest, who is actually here with me today, reason we had to take her out of it was because she was having constant asthma attacks at school. She'd be in the bathroom hyperventilating because she would get overheated, couldn't talk. I'd have to go pick her up almost every other day because of it, and it caused her to have such anxiety that she could not, I mean, she's still dealing with it, and stomach pains that were causing it too. Seeing it in the schools that they are not learning. These kids are not taking it serious. They just feel like, you know, the masks are, everyone can hide behind them. Like one of the other ladies said, you know, you cannot see the expression on the face of the other person that you're talking to. So what if they are contemplating on doing something? You don't know. At least without masks, you can see. There is a chance that you can make classrooms where those who want to have masks stay in that class, and the ones that are okay with the option, they can go into another class. Not meaning to try to do a segregation at all, but if it's to help save, you know, keep people safe, that is a good cause. One of the funny, or I thought was funny, mentioned by one of the board members was the fact that she said, it's here and we're having to live through it. Well, does that mean that it's here? We never know when it's going to be leaving, so do our children have to wear a mask every single day for the rest of their lives or through the whole up to 12th grade? So from pre-K to 12th grade for the rest of their lives, are they going to have to wear a mask every day? Also, I can't remember what I was going to say. That's it. That's where I'm going to end. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Cram.
Hi, my name is Mary Jo Cram. I'm a teacher at the Academy at Old Cockrell. I'm also a Metro parent with 2 boys at Dan Mills Elementary. I'm here in support of the MNEA campaign to fully staff MNPS. But more importantly, I want to tell you about Miss Linda Cotton and Miss Vicki Cotton, no relation. These women are part of the support staff at our school. Miss Linda Cotton came to our school this year, and we call her Miss C, so we don't confuse her with Miss Vicki Cotton. Before she came to us, she worked at Eagle View Elementary, so she has a total of 7 years of service in the district. She's our attendance clerk. When students are tardy, she welcomes them to school and puts their attendance data into Infinite Campus. She also deals with transcripts, cumulative records, and truancy letters. Ms. Vicki Cotton, our campus supervisor, has worked for the district for 18 years. Her job is to ensure student safety. Her nickname is the Bulldog because of her tough, stubborn insistence that students act right. She commutes from White House every day because she loves her job. But with rising gas prices, she needs a raise now more than ever. These women are the first friendly faces to greet our students in the morning. So they play an essential role in building a positive school culture. They know all our students by name. They help kids to feel cared for from the minute they walk in our building. The relationships they build with students are every bit as important as the ones we build as teachers. Our school motto is acceptance, recognition, and a sense of belonging. These women put it into practice every day. In addition to our 2 Miss Cottons, we also have Miss Vanessa Russell, our secretary bookkeeper, Mr. Tim Etter, our custodian, and Miss Lorinda Hogan, a frequent substitute teacher. They and all the other stellar support staff in the district are vital parts of the MNPS team. Every long-term employee of Metro Schools has suffered from years of missed step increases and cost of living adjustments. Last year, teachers got life-changing, long overdue raises. Now it's our turn to stand up for our colleagues who work just as hard and whose contributions to our students' educations are just as valuable. Let's not go one more year without giving Miss C and Miss Cotton the raises they deserve. I trust you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Paige Babcock.
Paige couldn't make it this evening, but she did ask me to read her statement. Good evening. I'm Paige Lagrone Babcock, mother of an MNPS junior at Hillsborough High School and a wife of a second grade teacher at J.E. Moss Elementary. I'm also a 6th grade literacy teacher at Apollo Middle School. I've been advocating for public school funding here in Nashville for over a decade. I am tired. And now, here we are, 2 years to the week into a pandemic that has thrown things cattywampus. Yes, this school year, my husband and I and many of our colleagues got our first significant pay raise since we began teaching in MNPS. For our family of 3, it has been a great help. We no longer are forced to decide between paying for extracurriculars for our son or scraping together enough to repair a 10-year-old car. We can now pay our mortgage for a small, modest home and also buy the needed sports gear without worrying about the utilities. We are grateful. And yet, the pandemic has magnified everything. The needs for students, communities, and educators and their families have increased. We have a mental health care crisis among those who have suffered health issues, job and family losses, social isolation, and a divided nation in racial turmoil. Students seem not just to be struggling with academics this year, but with social structures and developmental milestones. Behaviors in schools are turned up, responsibilities too. We are hurting, all of us. The kids are not okay. The teachers and the bus drivers and paraprofessionals and cafeteria workers and front office folks in schools are not okay. We are desperate for more boots on the ground. Even with a raise, teachers can make a fraction of those with similar education, and it's hard to keep up in a boomtown like Nashville. Money is part of the reason teachers are walking, but add to that the intense scrutiny and micromanagement of our profession, legislation making it ever more challenging to teach, and the loss of support from the public. Teachers are stressed and sick, trying to balance their work and home life responsibilities and coming up short on both. Just this past Sunday, I learned news